A while ago, I read this book. It's called Get Us Out of Here, and it's written by Nicky Eltz, but he actually interviewed Maria Simma. Maria Simma was purported to, for several decades of her life, actually receive visitors, souls from purgatory who were allowed to come to her and answer questions, tell her stories. It intrigued me. Christine Watkins and I did a show about it. It is very powerful, and I needed to buy it again because I always give my books away. And I wanted to share with you some of the stories in here because if you're anything like me, I'm a cradle Catholic. I've always loved God. I've never strayed from the Catholic Church, but I did become a little bit Protestantized for a little bit when I was going to a Protestant Christian university. And it made me question purgatory. It made me question, why do we honor Mother Mary? Because, of course, Jesus honors her. It's his mother, and honor their father and mother is a commandment he'd never break. But that's a different video. This one really, it had me thinking. I said, Lord, you've got to expose to me if this is true or not. And I can do several talks about this. I've done another book. But what I wanted to do today is just start reading some of the, well, they're all good, some of the pages from this book to you and see if it helps answer some of your questions. Of course, I'd love for you to get this book. Again, it's called Get Us Out of Here. Maria Simma Speaks with Nicky Eltz. So I'd like to just start. What he does is he asks her questions, he answers, he puts them in here. So here is one question. Now, please, what exactly is purgatory? She says, purgatory is a place and a condition that every soul experiences when it still needs to do atonement and reparation for sins that it committed during its life before it too can join Jesus in heaven. Very little is taught about it today, and when little is taught about purgatory, it leads far more people in becoming curious on their own, and without any spiritual guidance, they can then stumble so easily into occult practices. Usually it's said that purgatory is only a condition. This is only partially true, for it is most definitely also a place. It is also a time for waiting where the souls yearn for God. This yearning for him is their greatest suffering. All poor souls experience this no matter at what level they find themselves. There are three main levels in purgatory, and I experience the souls that need relatively little for their deliverance into heaven. I believe this is for two reasons. Now, she was saying how there were three levels, and she personally would get souls from the top level. She talks about the bottom, the middle, and the top. She did also later in the book talk about people who were receiving souls from the lower levels. But I just wanted to clarify what she meant here. She said, they come to me from this top level. There are three main levels in purgatory, and I experience the souls that need relatively little for their deliverance into heaven. I believe this is for two reasons. The first is something that I experienced when I was called to a house by the owner who had just lost his wife recently and where strange things were happening at night. So I agreed to go there to spend a night to see if I could help him. It didn't take long for a loud banging and thumping to start out in the hall. I then asked, as I normally do, "What can I do for you?" But the noises only became louder and louder when suddenly a huge animal appeared that I had never seen before, and right behind it came a large serpent that quickly devoured the first animal. Then the whole scene disappeared. I must have been somewhat afraid because I was sweating by the time it was all over. Later on, I described this to a man who knows plenty about such occurrences, and it was he who identified the first animal for me. It had been a hippopotamus, which is symbolic for hard-heartedness. This does not mean that the woman was in purgatory as a hippopotamus. This was only a way for me to understand this case more clearly. Having then spoken at length with the widower, it soon became clear that his wife had kept an animosity going with another woman for some 30 years, even though the latter had wanted peace between them. This refusal to forgive then earned her deepest level of purgatory, from where I was not yet able to deliver her. The second reason I believe that I usually experience souls in the highest level of purgatory is a diary written by a German princess in the 20s. For several years, she experienced the souls in the deeper levels, and many of those descriptions are certainly monstrous and very much more painful than what I have seen. Then he asks her, what might some other differences be between the higher and the lower levels of purgatory? She writes, in the lowest level, Satan can still attack the souls, whereas he can no longer do that in the higher levels. It is true that we are tested while here on earth, and that testing stops with our death. However, the souls in the deepest third of purgatory must first suffer away the sins that they committed before our prayers, masses, and good deeds can be beneficial to them. And a part of that suffering in the deeper level is that they continue being attacked by Satan. The many levels of purgatory are different in the same way that all our earthly illnesses are different. One can be a mere irritation of a fingernail, while another can consume the entire body like fire. This fire exists only in the lower levels of purgatory, but not in the highest. He then asks, can our prayers block Satan from attacking those in the lower levels of purgatory, the lowest levels? Oh, yes, they can. And especially when we directly ask St. Michael the Archangel, and the lesser angels to do that. And within these three main levels, are there more levels? Oh, yes, a very large number, because every soul is so very different when it arrives here. There are great sufferings and there are lesser sufferings and everything in between. There are probably as many levels as there are souls, because no two people or no two souls, of course, are ever identical. Then he asks, when the poor souls suffer, do they experience joy and hope in any way? Yes, no soul ever wishes to return here to earth because they have a realization of God that is very much clearer than ours is here. They never want to return to the darkness that we live in here. So God puts the souls there to cleanse them of their sins not yet atoned for and repaired? No, this is usually taught incorrectly, and false teaching such as this can so easily turn people away. God does not put them there. The souls judge and then assign themselves to the appropriate level. It is they who wish to cleanse themselves before they join God. And realizing the specific truth about God's love for us is very important. So it's we who recognize that we're not yet pure and therefore need to be cleansed in purgatory? Yes, that's right. Do souls there ever revolt against their condition? Are they patient, or do some of them not want the condition that they are in? No, they are patient and they want to suffer, knowing that through this they can atone and repair everything. They become clean to arrive in front of God in an entirely brilliant condition. The more atonement and reparation that are done, the cleaner they become. Are the sufferings of purgatory greater than those we suffer here on earth? And she says, all in all, they're greater, and sometimes very much greater, especially in the bottom third. They suffer more spiritually than we do. When I asked a soul once what he suffered there, he told me that it was a very particular suffering. For instance, a father who was too lazy to work for his family and then suffered here because of him, then had to work a great deal there. The suffering from that will be much greater than the body would suffer from appropriate work here. But our sufferings here, despite being less severe, are worth so very much more to erase our sins than those in purgatory. So then he asks, if purgatory is also a place, do the poor souls spend their time at particular places here on earth? She says, yes, it seems that they congregate the most often around the altar or at the spot where they died. A woman I knew in Liechtenstein also saw them only around the altar. And when they were no longer there, she knew that they had gone to heaven. The souls do not come to me or to us from purgatory, but come to us with purgatory. It is so many different places, not a place, and so many different conditions, not a condition. If purgatory is many places or large space, then are heaven and hell also places? Yes, my spiritual director had me ask about this, and the answer was, it is wrong what many theologians teach today when they say that heaven, hell, and purgatory are merely conditions. They are all places too. That is what a soul told her when it visited her. How broad is the span of time that souls must be there before they can enter heaven? Oh, that's very broad. Some for a mere half hour and others for the rest of time to the very last day. The average, the souls say, is 40 years. So there will be a last day. Yes. Can a poor soul see and communicate with others near to it? Well, they are always aware of the presence of others and know that they were not alone when many have acted together to do something, but they only rarely communicate with each other. Maria, can they read? Well, yes, they can read. They read spiritually. I know this because when they come to me, I do not have to read the names or questions that I have for them. They simply lift them off the page. How much do they know about their families? I would say almost everything. They see us all the time. They hear every word we speak about them, and they know what our sufferings are. But they do not know our thoughts. They watch their own funerals and know who is there praying for them and who is there only to be seen by the others. Do the souls there know what's going to happen in the world? Yes, they do know some of it, but not everything. They've told me that there is something very big just at the door, just ahead of us. For many years, they said it was in front of the door. But since May of 1993, they have used the term at the door. It will be for the conversion of humanity. And in smaller ways, they have told me things slightly ahead of time. In the summer of 1954, they told me about the floods that did so much damage in this area. Then they also told me once that after an avalanche, there were still some people alive under the snow. And so the rescue people continued to search a while longer than they would have otherwise. And they did locate and save people for 2 more days after I told them to please continue searching. It is said that time no longer exists after this life. But then you say that purgatory is a time for yearning for God. Please explain this. It's correct that after this life, time no longer exists. But when we are told that a soul must suffer so much time there, it is being translated into time for us. They can say that they must suffer more, they cannot yet be delivered, or their suffering has lessened. When a time is given, or when a number of masses is given by the souls, it symbolizes the intensity and the amount of the suffering. Do the poor souls have bodies as we do here? Or do they have another, say, spiritual body? They say that they do not notice that they do not have their body with them. They have a transfigured body, and it can take on the form of a healed and dressed human body. The souls regret things that they did badly while here. Do they also regret things that they did not do all the while that they were on earth? This is important to me because I've been asking the Lord lately about sins of omission. Maria Simma answers, yes, very much so. They regret chances that they missed to do good for God and their fellow men, and they get to see what good fruits would have come from them. When we die, we lose the chance to do good deeds. The souls in purgatory can no longer earn merits as we can here. It's also said that the angels envy us because we can do good deeds for God, whereas they cannot do good deeds for Him, either, thus earning future merits. What happens when people who know purgatory exists go ahead and sin anyway, thinking it won't be so bad? They will regret that very dearly. Much more dearly than those who commit the same sin, knowing nothing about its existence. What is the deepest purpose of all for what you, Maria Simma, experience? She says, God has permitted this so that through my apostolate, others would have a clear understanding that our life here is only for us to gain entry into heaven. Our purpose here is to be good to one another, and by doing so, to join God, both here and now, and then finally in eternity. With this realization, life becomes increasingly valuable to everyone, and the absurdity of what a huge number of people do with it also becomes much clearer. It shows us the enormity of God's love and the glorious beauty that life can become when we work alongside of Him. So, what I have been shown should and can give people a clear and definite orientation through life if they wish to participate in God's heavenly will and its resulting beauty. He last says, and in a nutshell, Maria, what is it you yourself have learned throughout these many years of your very rare experiences? To love God with all my might. I cannot wait to read to you more of this book. Some of the souls that she's encountered, some of the things that they've said, it has transformed my life. If you don't believe in purgatory, please don't turn off this video. Please at least give it a chance. Please at least say, God, if this lady's crazy and this is no real place, then just give me clarity. But ask Him, if purgatory is real, show me. Because guys, none of us has been on the other side. And once we get there, it's too late. And if purgatory does exist, don't you want to be prepared for it? Don't you want to do all you can to avoid time there and to go straight to heaven? Give me some time. Let this book change you. But most of all, we just want to glorify God. And what an awesome opportunity we'll have to do so in heaven. But I want to get out of this, get out of there as soon as possible. Let me know your thoughts. What do you want to know? I'm Dr. Christine Bacon. Thanks for watching this informational Bacon Bit. And as always, remember to live your life sunny side up.